Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be my inaugural video to kick off my MCU retrospective series. I'll be going back through all of the MCU movies, shows, and one-offs, and discussing them in length, giving my opinion, and just overall seeing how each project has aged to this point. I know it will probably drive some people crazy, but I will be rewatching these in chronological order since I've already seen all of these at least once in release order. I don't have a set release schedule for these, but I will be dropping them in between my regular movie reviews. For any new MCU projects releasing, those will just get the normal review treatment. If you haven't already seen it and are interested, I do have a review for the Marvels already on the channel, and I will be dropping a review for the Echo series next week. I plan to do this style of series for other franchises that are near and dear to my heart as well, like Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Lord of the Rings, etc. But for now, if you enjoy my content and want to see more, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It would help the channel out and I would greatly appreciate it. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's dive back into Captain America, the First Avenger. Okay, look, full disclosure, the first time I saw this movie, I wasn't too interested. I had seen the first Iron Man in theaters and I loved it, and I wasn't too big into the shared universe idea at the time. When the first slate of MCU films got announced, I was sort of just in the pick and choose mindset when it came to these movies. The only reason I went to see this is because it was at a drive-in and it was playing as a double feature along with Thor. Thor was what I was there for, so I sat through the first Avenger and I was genuinely surprised. And every time I go back and watch it, I appreciate it even more. I love this movie, and as far as origin stories go, I think it's one of the better ones. The story is pretty standard in terms of superhero origins go, but because the characters are so fleshed out and the action is fun and the story is different enough, it doesn't really matter. It's good. We watch as Steve Rogers goes from an overlooked weak kid from Brooklyn to a full-blown superhuman. I love the period piece aspect of this movie, just getting to see Cap and his team trek across Europe during World War II, taking out sections of Red Skull's forces, as he himself seeks to dominate the world and rule it under the tyrannical arms of Hydra. We also get to see arguably the best romance in the MCU blossom between Steve and Peggy. The story is fast and exciting, it's uplifting and heartbreaking at the same time, and it all starts with Steve. Rogers as a character is inspiring, a young man who stands for what he believes in despite his initial physical limitations, and he's unflinching in that resolve as he's willing to get the crap kicked out of him in a back alley just to prove his point. Going into this movie on the initial viewing, I was familiar with Cap from the comics, and I was nervous that he was going to be portrayed as this boring, one-note Boy Scout type caricature. And he is, sort of. But he's so much more than that, showing the origin of this character from his beginnings as a scrawny, malnourished kid from Brooklyn who no one takes seriously as he transitions to this brawny, wrecking ball of a man that the enemy learns to fear is uplifting. He's a character that encourages us to be steadfast in our values and beliefs and motivates us to do the right thing even against all odds. I think Chris Evans plays the character perfectly. Before this movie, I think it was pretty apparent that a lot of viewers were sort of skeptical about Evans' acting ability. He was a good actor for sure, but he had been siphoned off into the same cool, lovable, jock, funny character role like in Not Another Teen Movie or Fantastic Four. I think we just all came to the conclusion that we knew what to expect from Evans at this point. Then he was cast as Captain America and became a Chris Evans we hadn't really seen before. Evans played Rogers with such a deep vulnerability. He's reserved. As a kid who's lost his family, whose best friend was sent to war, and he's just eager for a chance to prove himself. And once he gets that chance, Evans ups the ante, but becoming a hero that's confident but not cocky. A hero who is resilient and unmoving. A hero that inspires us. Sure, he doesn't have many major flaws in this movie, I'll give you that, but he's not completely perfect either. I appreciate the aspect of this character still learning the logistics of his new power he's been given. We see this when he chases down Dr. Erskine's assassin. He's pretty green right out of the gate, losing control of his new body on multiple occasions. Even in his final battle with Schmidt, he loses. It's only because of Schmidt's selfish actions that Cap actually comes out on top. While we're on the topic, Hugo Weaving is also in this movie. An established actor already at this point, and he brings it. Sure, he's a little over the top, but Weaving chews up every scene that he's in. It's just a shame, really, that we didn't get that much of him. Watching this back, Weaving as Red Skull is only in a handful of scenes. I think Weaving is obviously great casting, and the Red Skull is certainly formidable as a physical match for Cap, but we don't really get much more from his character than just surface level traits. He's portrayed as this intelligent mind and an expert tactician, but we don't really see that play out. Everything we do see in terms of his intellect is off of the back of Zola's accomplishments. In Tactician, he doesn't really do anything. These scenes that we get the Red Skull in either involve Cap or it's the opening sequence. Off looks alone, he's intimidating, but the movie doesn't give enough time for the Red Skull to fully flesh out. We don't really even know what his motivation is. Sure, we know a little bit of his history with Erskine, but what happened that caused the ultimate rift between them? At a lot of points in this movie, he just seems like a bad guy just being bad and conquering the world. I wish we would have gotten more. I don't think Weaving's talents were wasted necessarily, but I don't think this villain is anything more than just okay. The rest of the cast is solid. Haley Atwell is great as Peggy Carter. Her and Evans together convey the whole will they won't they love story perfectly. When they finally share that kiss, you feel it. And when Steve makes his sacrifice and the radio goes dark, it's heartbreaking, and Atwell portrays that so well. It's wild because we only see these two characters really interact in 2 movies together, but when their story comes full circle in the future, it doesn't feel forced or cheesy. And that's because of the chemistry Evans and Atwell laid in the foundation in this movie. Tommy Lee Jones as Chester Phillips is a delight. Enough said, he's Tommy Lee Jones. He's going to be good at whatever role you file him into. He's one of my favorites all time, and there's nothing really to talk about here. Dominic Cooper as Howard Stark is perfect. Marvel had to cast 2 Starks, and one of them they had to cast twice, and they knocked it out of the park all 3 times. When you see Howard in this movie, having already watched Iron Man, you would say, yeah, of course that's Tony's dad. Stanley Tucci is another like Jones. You can pretty much plug and place him anywhere you want, and you know you're going to get a good performance. Lastly, Sebastian Stan, who at the time was a relative unknown, and he's good. He doesn't get much time to stand on his own and show off the acting chops that we recognize from his work today, but the scenes he shares with Rogers, you feel that relationship. They're good friends, but really they're brothers. And when you watch, you understand that they have a shared bond, and they've had it for a long time. And that's a testament to the performances and the chemistry that Stan and Evans give. The action in this movie is fun for the most part. Sometimes, because of the era this movie is set in and the choice of direction, it can be a bit goofy and a bit over the top, but it fits the style, so I can't complain too much about that. The standout to me is still the pursuit through Brooklyn. It's a delight getting to see Rogers discover his brand new power set, seeing him take a corner too quickly and crash through a storefront window, his astonished look as he hurdles a 6-foot chain link fence. It's a lot of fun. The final battle is also good, but a little too quick in my opinion. I like seeing the Red Skull get the best of Cap. As I said before, you don't want your new hero to be perfect right off the bat. Cap is very new into his career, and you want to see him get knocked down and pushed himself to get back up. The visuals in this one are great for the most part. Johnson sticking with so many practical effects was a phenomenal choice. Everything looks so real, like I said, for the most part. You feel like you're really on the streets of 1940 New York. Hydra's weapons and artillery feel like they actually existed. Even the CGI when it's used is on point. For a lot of this movie, but there are a couple things we'll need to talk about. Scrawny Steve Rogers is still a massive accomplishment in the visual effects department. It looks incredible. My biggest complaint, visually, is Red Skull's Roadster and aircraft hangar. It's strange, the Roadster in a lot of these scenes looks good, but then in other scenes, it's got this weird glossy sheen over top of it that looks completely fake, like the effects weren't fully finished, so they just brushed it over. The hangar scene is hands down the worst aspect of this film. It's just ugly. It's an ugly, black, ambiguous void, and there's one shot that drives me insane every time I watch this movie. It's when Red Skull gives his "we're going to conquer the world" speech to his Hydra goons before he cheers them with a glass of wine. This whole scene is terrible. It looks like Weaving stood in front of a green screen next to 5 extras and just spouted out these lines. And then there's a whole army out of nowhere that also looks completely fake, like they were copy and pasted into the background. It's just bad all around. I don't know if they ran out of time or if they hit budget constraints, but this scene could have used another once over in my opinion. But outside of that, I love the visual style of this film, and most of the effects are spot on. And that's a testament to Joe Johnston. I'm not a big fan of Johnson, but Marvel recruited him because of his work on The Rocketeer, and you see that all over this movie, and it works. This sort of pulpy Art Deco steampunk style, it looks goofy sometimes, but for the most part it fits the era and the story very well, and it's enjoyable. I think Johnson makes a name for himself for this movie because, as you'll see throughout the series, you don't see a lot of directors bringing in a unique or individualized flavor to their movie, and I give him a lot of credit for that. The one thing I wish Johnson would have pushed for was more of a focus on Cap and his adventures with the Howling Commandos. We see them infiltrate various Hydra bases and go on missions together, but it's all done in montage, and I wish we would have seen these aspects more fleshed out and seen the bond of these men grow. This is one MCU film where I will say I wish the runtime was longer. Real quick, I just wanted to include a section on the hero-villain costumes. All of Cap's are great. The initial costume being his onstage Captain America outfit is funny, it's enjoyable, and that whole piece of this movie, getting to see him go on this USO tour, is hilarious, and it's just a delight. It's a delight. It's so silly, but it's so good as a callback to the classic comic Cap costume. It's even better once he tosses the leather jacket over top. This movie has 2 of my favorite Cap uniforms, the first being the stage outfit with the jacket, and the second being the tactical World War II soldier style fit. Both are chef's kisses among the MCU hero costumes. I also like the Red Skull's all-black overcoat look. Like I mentioned before, the practical makeup is fantastic, and the overcoat just adds to the intimidation factor. The post-credit scene, in context, is outstanding. It not only sets up the Avengers, but also gave the audience a quick tease that nobody was expecting. It's a fun little nod to what's coming ahead, and I really appreciated it when I saw it in theaters. It loses a little steam now, since we kind of know what's coming if you've already seen these movies, but all in all, it was fun. All being said, I love this movie. It's a blast to rewatch. The style, the performances, the story. Sure, there are a few negatives, but I think it stands the test of time as far as MCU movies go, and superhero origins go especially. This movie gave us the Cap that we didn't know we were missing. It gave us a hero that was inspiring, that made us think we could stand up for what we believe in, no matter the cost. And it gave us an origin story that I think is one of the best, and I cannot wait to revisit the rest of Cap's journey in this franchise going forward.